knew about it. That's why Lee Kuan Yew agreed on the first proposal on the 21st of May 1961 during Tengku Abdul Rahman visit. And then it was discussed in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in Singapore. Why not? This is a good story because the British also want to let go you people become independent. United Nations insisted that you must become independent. Then the Solidarity Committee established, and then our people send our own representative, strong representative from all the stakeholders, Malaya, Sarawak, Sabah, Brunei, Singapore, everybody. They had a discussion. From the committee report, then came the Kabul Commission, the birth of the Kabul Commission, they proposed the Kabul Commission. Then the Kabul Commission is the one that came to Sarawak to ask the people wishes and intention, mau tidak jadi part of the Federation of Malaya. Bila agree, okay. Generally, kalau kita orang baca, if you read all the reports, the Kabul Commission report ataupun penyelidikan Suruhanjaya Kabul, most Sarawakian, the representative, asking for let us become independent first. Everybody said that. Let us become independent first. And Sabah also the same. Sabah also kata, let us become independent before we talk. So I thought our leaders, even though we thought so much, I agree with Robert, no education, no bakul of degree. Now if you want to become a barrister from England, you must have 2 degrees. First LLB, second barrister law, what we call it, I proudly call it the degree of utter barrister from the Council of Legal Education in London. One of the most difficult exam you can ever imagine. Passing rate 30%. So, at that time we didn't have that. But the people that went for the meeting are also very far-sighted. They want all this to be done. Ed came over, studied. And then with that Kabul Commission report, then came the Malaysia Agreement, came the IGC, Intergovernmental Commission, Intergovernmental Committee, to do their own detailed study. These are the people who created the whole thing. And then to do the pindaan for the perlembagaan. So it was a pindaan. Then it became, in short, briefly, the Malaysia Act of 1963. 1963 passed in the United Kingdom. Malaysia Act 1963 has 2. Remember that, has 2 Malaysia Act 1963. One, the one passed in England by the House of Commons, because under the Commonwealth Charter, the British says not an inch of the British territory can be ceded out without the consent of the Commons in the House of Commons. And that is why it must be tabled there. And it was passed immediately before, on the 19th of July. That's why sometimes we made a mistake thinking that the 22nd of July is the independence for Sarawak, because at that time, the House of Commons has already given consent to Sarawak to go independent. But then, the independence must go through Malaysia to be fixed the date on the 31st of August 1963. 31st of August 1963. So, this Act of Malaysia in Britain, with a draft of the amended constitution, brought to Semenanjung, Dewan Rakyat, tabled in Dewan Rakyat. It was passed by Dewan Rakyat on 20th of August. Debate finished on the 18, passed on the 20th August 1963. That enabled Malaya to amend the original constitution of 1957. That is why the Article 160(2) says the constitution, the federation form is under 57 and not under 63, because when they brought in Sarawak, it is only amending the constitution only. And Act of Malaysia, Britain says to federate with the existing state of the Peninsula Malaya. But then the weakness in this argument is that even though that seemed to be the reality, agreement of 1963 is nowhere mentioned in the constitution, in our constitution. And yet, agreement of 1957 mentioned, agreement 1957 mentioned of 1948, so they have the chain of reference. You can refer to 57, then you get 48. But if you refer to 1963, you miss the agreement of 1963. Later on, I explain why we oppose the amendment made lately in April the 4th. The reason, because of this 1963 missing. Okay, then the amended version of that Constitution of Malaya 1957 become the Constitution of Malaysia in 1963. But then why it was not enforced on the 31st of August 1963 as what being stated in the Act of Malaysia 1963 in United Kingdom, or based on the IGC report and the Malaysian agreement. Why? The reason is, again, Robert just mentioned just now about opposition made by Philippines and Indonesia. Then they had the summit in Manila. They call it Manila Summit. The meeting held on the 29th to the 3rd of August. They had a meeting. That result of that meeting got to be sent to UN. So UN got to make decision what to do, because it urged the United Nations to go to Sarawak and Sabah, ask the people of Sarawak and Sabah, what do they want? Do they want to join Malaysia or not? That is why UTA, the Secretary General of United Nations, came to Sarawak and Sabah. Robert already mentioned. I don't want to mention that detail anymore. He came. Basically, he received the report of the Kabul Commission. Pimai tentu the Malaysia. That one come back all around again. 2 weeks, what can you do? How much assessment can you make? Of course, you made a lot of people, but not that much. It was accepted then Sarawak and Sabah, majority want to be part of Malaysia. And therefore, because of that Manila Summit, agreement was amended. Agreement, MA63 agreement, signed in 9 July in England, amended it to amend it instead of 31st of August to the 16th of September. That's why it became the 16th of September to enforce the Constitution of Malaysia. Act of Malaysia is possible only on the 16th of September. But then, all the series of documents must be read together, like what Sarifah Hashida said. It cannot be read in isolation to understand the whole issue about what happened to us. So that become our constitution. Is exactly the Constitution of 1957, Tanah Melayu. The only thing, the additional safeguard entered into, whether it's negotiable or non-negotiable, it is disebut oleh Sarifah Hashida just now, the one that put in our forests, our land, our natural resources, our immigration, all those things. us given safeguard. Planning of our local council, this is why our DBKS and BQ still do our own planning. We didn't have to ask KL for permission. The enforcement land council decision is not affected Sarawak and Sabah. The enforcement of council for the local council doesn't affect Sarawak and Sabah. All those safeguards are in place in our constitution. So now, be that as it may, why it happened, they can ambil kita punya minyak. Why they can take our gas and our petroleum, just like what Sharifah Hasidah said. Okay, the history again. I go back to history. 1948, President Truman made a declaration, continental shelf of America, the whole around the water around America belong to America. As a result of that, Queen Elizabeth responded by declaring their own continental shelf, not only for Britain, but for all the territories belong to Great Britain. And that is the one that Sharifah Hasidah mentioned, the declaration by Queen Elizabeth 1954, following Truman Declaration of America, to give Sarawak the continental shelf. Include, Sharifah Hasidah said, include our economic zone, 200 nautical mile of seas, Sarawak seas, belong to Sarawak. But then, why they take the minyak from there?
Emergency Act.
Why they manage our minyak? 1966, consistent with this continent law of the sea was introduced. And then the Continental Shelf Law, they introduced 1966. All Mining Act 1966, all only in Peninsula. But came emergency 1969. I like Robert's question. What has it got to do with oil? It was emergency. Why it got to do with oil? The reason is very simple. Not all the laws suspended. Only the Constitution was suspended. Parliament was suspended. No meeting of Parliament since 1969. On the 14th, there was supposed to be a meeting of Parliament. 14th of May 1969, supposed to be a meeting. Ahli Parlimen selepas election, there must be angkat sumpah. Which in certain number of days, dia don't angkat sumpah, hilang seat. Election semula. But because they suspend the perlembagaan, so the thing stretched. I commented in my book. Suspend perlembagaan. When they suspended the constitution, suspend parliament, therefore there's no more barrier for them to pass the law. So the National Operation Council, in Malay word Magaran short form, under Tun Razak time, passed several law, include the Emergency Act, Essential Act, ordinances disebut oleh Robert tadi, iaitu nombor 7, to allow the Continental Shelf Act 1966 extended to Sarawak. To allow the Oil Mining Act extended to Sarawak, but then 1966 Oil Mining Act, 1966, only Continental Shelf. Onshore, it still belong to us, belong to Sarawak. They still haven't encroached into onshore. Until they passed the law 1974 yang Sharifah Hasidah sebut tadi. Because of that emergency 1969, all condition under Article 2 of the Constitution to say, if you encroach into the territory of Sarawak, territory of Sabah and all the state in Malaysia is the territory before the Malaysia Day. Maknanya, it means the territory declared by Queen Elizabeth 1954. So now they are coming in because of the emergency suspension of Constitution. So Article 2 no longer applicable. See, very smart. They got to be smart to manage a country. But then it was detrimental to us. So they created so many laws. But then under Article 150, the declaration of emergency by Yang di-Pertuan Agong can last 6 months. So they created another law, Act of Parliament 1974, to extend the period for things that which has not been done can be done under Article 150(7). So what have not been done? Because they already signed 1998 the Convention of the Law of the Sea that requires certain things to be done. The Territorial Act got to be introduced and all that got to be introduced. Long after the emergency has gone, Najib has already abolished all the emergency ordinances and act in 2009. I sit down in the Dewan, presiding the Dewan, to see all this act was abolished. Rightly, nothing could be enforced anymore. Why the existence of Act of 1974 still there to say that what has not been done can continue to be done. Then they passed the law 2012, Territorial Act, to limit our continental shelf into 3 nautical miles. So I challenged AG Malaysia, FND. I said, bring the case to court, let's see what happened. Because I said, there's no way emergency, which is about the riot in Kuala Lumpur, has anything to do with our territory. His answer very simple. This is in the meeting. This was in the meeting. Those days we had a meeting before Pakatan Harapan. We had another committee who did all the devolution of powers. 13 executive devolution has been completed and implemented. So in that meeting, I challenged FND. I said, I don't agree with this. If you want, you bring the case to court. We'll see you in court. FND leaned back. He said, I don't think we would like to bring the case to court. So that's why the case never went to court from the government. Most probably, they knew they were made a mistake. Because Article 2 is very clearly said, if you encroach into the territory, you change the territory of a state, you must have the consent of the state. Not only the consent, it must be passed the Dewan Undangan Negeri of the state. Article 2 very clearly said that. They didn't have that. But still, we cannot say the Act of 2012, the Act of 1974 include the Petronas Act is illegal because it's not been adjudicated. Remember the 3 organs of government, the judiciary? We should have consulted the judiciary, but they don't know because there will be the end game. If we win, win all. If we lose all. Now, okay, the Constitution. So that's why the weakness of our Constitution, in spite of what Robert has just said, it needs the 2/3 majority to amend the Constitution. The weakness is 1. If emergency should be declared, Constitution tak pakai, masuk dalam safe, you can do any law you like. But how long the law lasts is not being mentioned in the Constitution. It should be included in the Constitution to say, once the emergency ended, the law of emergency is being abolished or repealed completely, the effect of that will terminate every other law created during emergency. It should be included in the Perlembagaan, in the Constitution, so that the situation that we are facing today will not happen. That's the first weakness of this Constitution. But we need strong foundation to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, remember during the negotiation, during the meeting, MA 63, during the IGC report, it been mentioned the proportion of member of parliament from Sarawak and Sabah must be maintained so that the peninsula should not have the 2/3